HTML table. I will be explaining our table with the Microsoft Word. From there, you can code it. Because if we don't explain it with the Microsoft Word, the table will definitely confuse you. So we'll be explaining the table, the HTML table, how to draw a table in a website. We'll be explaining it with the Microsoft Word. And this is how to do it. This is our Microsoft environment, right? We want to insert our table. Then this is the table. You can just choose to insert like table of two lines or 3 lines, then with the columns. This is our table, right? This is a table in Microsoft Word. This is a table in Microsoft Word, right? By default, here can be our serial number, right? Here can be our description, or let's say items. Here can be our description, and here can be the, let's say, the rate, or let's say phone number. Let's say phone number, right? Then we can now come here and write, here is number 1, right? You can say Janet. You can say her phone number is 08045 and all that. And you can come here and say this is number 2, right? You can say Michael, his phone number is 0204, blah 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 as phone number, right? This is a normal Microsoft Word. This is a table in the Microsoft Word. If you want to replicate this now in your website or in your code, this is how to do it. Here, there is the serial number, the description, and the phone number. This place is called the table headings. You call them, and it's represented with this tag, table headings, TH. Let's use small letter so you see all this place. The description is represented by the tag, table headings, your phone number, because these places are the headings, represent here by the table headings. While this, the phone number, the number 1 is the data, the table, you call it the table data. Here, you also call this one the table data. These two, we call it the table data. The same thing is also applicable to these ones. It is table data, table data. So in your coding here, in your place, the normal, in your normal in your normal table, here is the headings. Here is where you write your headings, while the ones following them are the details, the data that you want to enter into your table. So in your coding, if you now want to code this in your coding, this place that you call that is the heading or the caption is what we call, is represented by this tag, the table headings. Can you see it? The table headings. While the one where you put the details of whatever you're writing inside is called the table data, table data, table data. Can you see that? Why the whole of this is the table row, and also you close it with the table row. Is it cleared? Here is your table row. Here is the table headings. The details in the table is what we call the table data. Now let us code it. Let us now go to our notepad and code the table, because there is no how you can draw table in your notepad. It is still with these codes that that you can get the table. Now let's go to our notepad and see what it looks like. Remember, it is the table we are trying to code. So you start with your table element, your table tag. This is the table, you close it. Table. Then everything you're going to write will be inside this table, inside this element. So everything we write will be inside here, because the browser will now recognize it as a table. But if you don't do it, if you write it outside of it, it will just be there. It will not make any sense. So everything we are going to write will be inside. Now you start with your table row. Table row, you close it, because you know that table have rows, right? The table have rows and columns. So you start with the table row, you come inside it. You also, table is made up of rows and columns, right? So everything you also write will be inside your rows, your table rows and columns. Now you now start with the table headings. Remember how we explained it on the Microsoft Word. Your captions is your heading, right? Now you start with the table headings, right? You close with the table heading tag. You close with the table heading tag. So what do you want it to be on? What's the title of the table heading? The first one, you can start with the serial number if you like. Serial number. This is our first caption. Then we want to have 3 rows and columns there, like 3 columns on our table. Then we introduce another table heading. Title, do you want it to be on your table heading? Is it their names, or you can say names of the people? The names, let's say names. You close it with the table heading closing tag. Then we are putting 3 columns, 3 rows and columns on our table. Now another table heading. Maybe let's say their phone number, or let's say their age. Now we'll close it. Now we'll close it with the table heading closing tag. This is this for this first one. For this first row. For the first row of the heading. This very thing we've written now is just this. We just wrote this. This first row. That is what we just wrote. Now we are going to write the next row, because the next row is now the details of what will be on this. Now let's go back to our code. Now the next one will now be the next row will now be our table data. But we also have to introduce the table row tag, so that your browser will also identify what you are telling it to do. Then we'll put our closing tag of the table row. This is another row. We'll come here. We have written our first row. So the next one is the table data. Table data. According to the series, we have on our first heading, we have the serial number, right? That simply means here will now be number 1. You close it with the table data closing tag. Remember, we'll have the second row, the second heading, which is the names. It will now be the table data. What is the name of the person? Let's say Ada. the first name of the person Ada. You close it with the table data too. And the third heading is the age. What's the age of this Ada? And you introduce another table data. What is the age of Ada? Ada is 18 years. We have written for the first table row, our number one. We have written for number one. Now let's go to another number two. Another person. We also write another table row. You close it. Why we always put our closing tag so you don't forget it. Then you come inside it. This is another row. You introduce another table data. That is number two. You close it with the table data. You introduce another table data. What is the name of the number two person? Let's say her name is Janet. You close it. The third one, you introduce another table data. What's the age of Janet? Janet is 20 years. Janet is 20 years. You close it. The table data. This is another row. You have written for this is the first heading. This is the first number one, number two. Now let's do for number three before we check on our browser. Then we go in with the next table row. GR. Close it. Come inside of it. Table data. It will now be number three. Remember, we are doing it serially. T, close it. Table data. PD. What's the name of the third person? Let's say the name of the third person is Peter. Peter. You close it. Then what is the age of Peter? Peter is 24 years. Peter is 24 years. Then we save. Now let's go to our code and see. We refresh. Can you see? Can you see? This is the serial number. This is the names. This is the age of the person, right? But our table did not have any border, right? But at least it has shown sign of table a little, but it does not have any word. It does not have lines like a normal table. So we are going to introduce lines to our table. Let us now add our border to the table, lines to the table, so that it will look like a proper table, and this is how to do it. Now let's go back to our code. This is our code. We are not adding the border here. This is where to add the border. You use strictly CSS to add it. We are going to, although we've not started learning CSS proper, but we are going to use CSS right now. We are using the internal CSS type to add the border to our table. Now this is how to do it. You come to the head section. You can see this is our head section. You can see it's our head section. This is the body section, but you come to the head section. This is our head section. Now you put your style. You come here. You write the table. You write table, telling the browser that you want to style the table. You write table head, table data. Then you put your ellipses and the closing tag of the ellipses. Now inside the ellipses, this is where we write our border and order. Then we'll now write border, the border element. We put colon. How many pixels? We can put it 2 pixels. Solid. solid black, solid black. We'll save it. Let's go to our browser and see. We'll refresh. You can see that our table now have lines. You can see that we have added lines to it, that is the border to it. But this is not a proper table, you understand, because it still have inner lines inside and it's not spaced. So let us remove the inner line so that it will look like a proper table. It's just looking like phone digits, so that it will look like a proper table. Now let's also go back to the place we styled it. We'll now add what we call border collapse. If you use the VS Code, you also see it there, border collapse. You put your colon and you write collapse. That is, collapse that inner lines. Let us also add our width, because the table is too jam-packed. Width, our width should be, let's say, 30%. We'll save. Then let's go back to our code.